Hi everyone, it's Ardith, and today I'm here with a video that shows a couple of really fun ways to stretch some of your supplies. It all started with a photo that I saw of some bee art, and I thought, wouldn't Ellen Hutson's folk heart dies make some beautiful wings? And our story continues. So I had the wings, but I also needed a body for my bee, and I came across the spaceship die from Space Out. That pointy nose is the perfect stingy end for my bee. And when I looked at the other dies, I could see that one of the planets would be perfect as my bee's head. It's not looking much like a bee right now, so I figured the first thing to do was to add some color. And I got out a couple of shades of yellow Catherine Pooler ink and my mini water media mat. Oh yes, and cutting off those fins will also go a long way to transforming this rocket into a chubby little bee. So I did that with my scissors, just trying to continue the curve of the spaceship body and get it really smooth. For the blending, I added limoncello ink along each edge with a blender brush, allowing it to fade to white in the center. This makes the bee body look rounded and dimensional. I added some extra contrast with tiki torch ink just on the edges, and this will give even more depth. When I was finished with the body, I moved on to the head, which I had cut from some dark gray cardstock. I blended some dark gray ink on the one side to give it a rounded look, and later on you'll see that I actually ended up using a lighter gray head to match some of my other elements better. Okay, so now he's looking like a light bulb, and hey, there's another way you could use this die if you wanted to. But you can see the bee coming to life. He just needs some stripes. I pulled out the painted stripe stamp set, and I thought it would be fun to use this thin stripe, but then I rethought and I chose a wider one. I placed the body in my MISTI and I stamped the stripe with blackjack ink before shifting the body up. Having that extra ink on that mouse pad really helped me see where the stripe would stamp, and that gave me some good spacing. I stamped 3 stripes in total, and I love that the distressed edges of the stripes help to give the stripes a fuzzy feel. And now this guy's really starting to look like a bee. Next, I made his wings. As I said earlier, I used the folk heart dies, and I cut one wing from Lawn Fawn pearlescent vellum to get a shimmery translucent look. This vellum is shimmery only on the one side, so I had to do some reverse die cutting so that I would get a mirror image of the wing with the shimmer on top. When I thought about assembling the bee, I knew I had to be careful about glue showing through the vellum, so I decided to attach the wings right at the top of his neck so that the glue would be under his head. As you can see, the blackjack ink dried back to a lovely soft gray, and this is when I decided I need to change the color of his head to get a better match. Next, I made my honeycomb background. I started by creating a yellow panel with my limoncello ink pad direct to paper. It looks streaky as it's going down, but it'll smooth out as it dries. Next, I created a negative stencil with this hex frame die and some white cardstock. I laid it down on my limoncello panel. And if you want symmetry in your design, it's best to work from the center out. Then I blended some tiki torch into it just around the edges. Then I moved the stencil and I used the edge of the previously inked hexagon to help me line up the next one. I didn't worry too much about perfect placement, but I just worked my way through the whole panel until it was covered. The lighter areas in the center of the hexes really give this a lot of dimension, but when I was finished I added even more dimension and interest by spritzing the panel with my distress sprayer and lifting some of the color up with a clean paper towel. Now this honeycomb looks like it's glistening with honey. I trimmed down the background and I cut out some letters using the classic block alphabet, OMB. I thought it was a fun play on OMG, but I'm not exactly sure what it stands for. I used my mini make art station to line up the letters. This magnetic ruler makes it so easy. To finish the card, I put the panel onto a white card base and I popped up the bee with some foam tape. At this point, I started looking at that spaceship die and trying to figure out if I could use it in other ways. I saw the fin and I knew my next stop was the ocean. Da-da, 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 da-da. Once again, I ink blended my spaceship, this time in sharp colors. I started with stone blue and then I went back over it with twilight ink. I wanted a really cool gray, and these translucent colors blend well to allow you to customize your shades. I didn't bother cutting off the other fin. You'll see how I dealt with that in a minute. Now a shark needs some teeth, and I had to really put my thinking cap on. And I came up with the grass border die from Landscapes. Look at those choppers. I cut another shark from gray cardstock so that I could practice. I was really winging it here as far as cutting into the die cut to get his teeth into his mouth. I trimmed down some smaller pieces of the grass, and I used a white dot to approximate where his eye would be so I would know where the mouth should go. I cut the mouth and then I trimmed the grass with scissors to fit behind. No magic here, just lining things up and judging how to place them before adhering them with Scotch tape. Using the tester shark showed me that I could go a little bit bigger with the mouth so that he could have even more teeth. Before I went further though, I wanted to test him in the ocean, so I created one. Again, I went direct to paper to create a colored panel, this time with aquatini, and then I blended Daydream ink on the bottom for some deeper water. I used one of the waves dies and I trimmed one end about a third of the way up the panel, and then I used the other end of the panel and cut another layer of waves. I felt like I needed to lighten the tops of the waves, so I got out some white pigment ink and I just kind of swiped it over the edges. Then I used a sponge dauber to blend it out a little bit, leaving it quite rough to add to the texture. Okay, so let's throw the shark in the water and see if he can swim. The reason I wanted 2 layers of waves was so that I could tuck him in between the layers and you'll never know that this guy has an extra fin and no tail. I played around a bit to figure out which arrangement I liked best, and then it was time to cut into my real shark. I used the teeth that I had used on the tester shark. They were already cut down and taped together, and then I added his eye along with a black dot to add some life to him. To finish this card, I added the ocean to another panel I had blended with It's a Boy ink to act as a sky. I stamped a punny, fantastic sentiment from Inner Mermaid with VersaFine Onyx ink, and I put the panel onto a white card base. Hearts as wings, spaceship as bee, light bulb and shark, and grass as teeth? Yes, please! There are probably even more ways to use this spaceship die. I had so much fun making these cards, and I hope you're inspired to take another look at the dies in your collection and see how you can create something new and unexpected with them. All the supplies I used are in a list in the description below. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time.